Li sat by the river, but he wasn't really there. His body was still, yet his mind raced in all directions. Regret whispered to him about the past, the chances he never took, the mistakes he couldn't undo, the words he wished he had said. Then, like an uninvited guest, fear of the future crept in, his career, his relationships, the uncertainty of tomorrow. His thoughts became a storm, an endless cycle he couldn't escape. As he stared at the rushing water, he felt as though his mind mirrored the river's constant movement, wild, unstoppable, never at rest. Just then, an old monk happened to walk by. Noticing the troubled young man, the monk silently sat down beside him. He, too, watched the river, but his gaze was calm, his presence peaceful. After a moment, the monk turned to Li and asked, "Why do you fight the river?" Li, puzzled by the question, looked at the monk and shook his head. "I don't fight the river. It flows on its own." The monk smiled knowingly and replied, "Then why do you fight your thoughts? Like the river, they come and go, let them flow, and you will find peace." At that moment, something shifted inside Li. He had spent years battling his own thoughts, trying to control them, suppress them, make sense of them, but the more he fought, the more restless his mind became. He watched the river again, but this time, he saw it differently. The water did not cling to anything, it simply moved forward, carrying leaves and debris with it. It did not question where it was going. It did not resist the rocks in its path. It simply flowed. Was that the secret? To stop fighting, to allow thoughts to come and go without clinging to them? Li closed his eyes and took a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, he did not try to stop thinking. Instead, he let his thoughts flow like the river, not grabbing onto them, not pushing them away. And in that stillness, he felt something he had been searching for all along: peace. The nature of overthinking, a universal struggle. Li's struggle is not unique. We all experience this battle within our minds. We relive past mistakes, wondering what we could have done differently. We obsess over the future, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. We examine every detail of the present, overanalyzing conversations, decisions, and possibilities. Like a river, our thoughts are always flowing, but instead of letting them pass naturally, we hold on to them, drowning in the currents of our own minds. So, how do we break free? How do we stop overthinking and find inner peace? Buddhism offers timeless wisdom that can help us quiet the noise in our minds and regain clarity. Your journey to inner peace begins here. In this video, we will explore 6 powerful Buddhist teachings that will help you stop overthinking and find clarity in life. You will learn how to let go of the past and future and fully embrace the present moment. You will discover how to free yourself from the need to control everything. You will understand why your thoughts do not define you and how to detach from them. And most importantly, you will learn how to cultivate a calm and peaceful mind despite life's uncertainties. Stay with me until the end, because what you are about to learn may change your life forever. 1. The present is the only reality. Stop carrying the past and future. Have you ever found yourself replaying an embarrassing moment from years ago? Wishing you had said something different? Or perhaps you lay awake at night, anxious about a future that hasn't even happened yet. We all do this. Our minds are trapped in time, either mourning the past or fearing the future. But what if I told you that the only moment that truly exists is now? The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." Yet, this is easier said than done. Our thoughts cling to what was and what could be, never allowing us to fully experience what is. Let me tell you a story. The story of the 2 monks and the river. A Buddhist master and his young disciple were traveling through the countryside when they reached a wide, flowing river. On the riverbank stood a young woman, hesitant and afraid to cross. The master, without a second thought, picked her up and carried her through the water, placing her gently on the other side. She bowed in gratitude and continued on her way. The disciple, however, was disturbed. They continued their journey in silence. But in his mind, a storm was brewing. Hours passed, and finally, the disciple could hold back no longer. "Master," he said, "why did you carry that woman? We are monks. We are not supposed to touch women." The master smiled, his voice calm. "I put her down hours ago, but you are still carrying her." The disciple froze in realization. His teacher had let go of the act the moment it was done, while he had carried it in his mind the entire journey. How often do we do the same? How many times do we hold on to past moments long after they have passed? The lesson: letting go of the past and future. Like the disciple, we carry unnecessary burdens in our minds. We replay past conversations, regretting what we did or didn't say. We obsess over mistakes, wishing we had chosen differently. We worry about the future, imagining scenarios that may never happen. But the truth is, we cannot change the past, and we cannot control the future. What we can control is how we experience this very moment. Imagine trying to walk forward while looking backward. You'd stumble, wouldn't you? That is what happens when we live in the past or future. We miss what is right in front of us. Real peace is found when we put down the unnecessary weight we carry and allow ourselves to fully live in the now. Practical tip: "Is this happening now?" question. Whenever you catch yourself overthinking, pause and ask, "Is this happening right now?" If it's a past regret or a future worry, let it go. If you're replaying an argument from last week, remind yourself, that moment is over. It does not exist anymore. If you're anxious about an uncertain future, tell yourself, the future is not here. Right now, I am safe. Breathe deeply, feel your surroundings. Right now is all you have. Right now is where peace lives. And the moment you embrace it, you will be free. 2. You can't control the ocean. Stop fighting the waves. There is a natural instinct in all of us, the desire to control. We want to control how people treat us, how situations unfold, how life rewards or challenges us. But the more we try to force the world into our expectations, the more suffering we create. Think about it. How much of your stress comes from wanting things to be different than they are? You want people to act a certain way, but they don't. You want things to go according to plan, but life has other ideas. You want your mind to be calm, but the more you try to force it, the more restless it becomes. The Buddha said, suffering is not caused by external events, but by our attachment to them. In other words, it's not what happens to us that creates suffering, it's our refusal to accept what is. The parable of the teacup. A young man visited a Zen master, frustrated by his mind's chaos. "My thoughts won't stop racing. I try to silence them, but they keep coming back," he complained. The master smiled and handed him a cup of tea. "Stir the tea," the master instructed. The young man stirred, watching as the tea leaves spun wildly in the liquid. "Now, be still." The man stopped stirring, and slowly, the tea leaves began to settle on their own. "The mind is the same," the master said. "If you fight the waves, you only create more disturbance. Let go, and peace will find you." The lesson: letting go of control. The harder you try to force peace, the further it moves away. The more you struggle against the natural flow of life, the more exhausted you become. Life, like the ocean, is ever-changing, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. The waves will rise and fall whether you want them to or not. The wind will blow in directions you cannot choose. The tide will come in and out at its own rhythm. But what happens when you stop fighting the ocean? You float. You learn to move with the current instead of against it. This is what true peace looks like, not forcing, not resisting, but allowing life to be what it is. Imagine a surfer. If they fight the waves, they will be thrown around, exhausted, but if they learn to ride them, they move effortlessly with the ocean. In the same way, when we stop trying to control everything, life becomes easier, lighter, more peaceful. Practical tip: the I release practice. The next time you feel overwhelmed, try this simple yet powerful technique. 1. Take 3 deep breaths. 2. With each exhale, mentally repeat, I release what I cannot control. Feel the tension leaving your body. Let go of the need to force things. Instead of trying to control every moment, trust that life knows what it's doing. Like the tea leaves in the cup, like the waves in the ocean, everything will settle on its own. 3. Simplicity is the path to freedom. We live in a world that glorifies more possessions, more responsibilities, more achievements. We are taught to believe that happiness lies in having everything, yet so many of us feel exhausted, burdened, and unfulfilled. Think about it. How much of your stress comes from carrying too much? We clutter our homes with things we don't need. We fill our minds with endless worries. We overload our schedules with tasks that drain us. But true happiness is not found in more, it's found in less. The Buddha once said, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." Happiness is not something you chase, it is something you uncover, and sometimes the only way to find it is by removing what no longer serves you. Let me tell you a story. The story of the heavy backpack. A weary traveler was making his way through the mountains, carrying a massive backpack filled with all sorts of items, tools, clothes, food, souvenirs from past journeys. At first, he felt prepared, but as the path became steeper, the weight of his backpack became unbearable. Every step felt heavier, more exhausting. A wise monk sat nearby, watching him struggle. "Why do you carry so much?" the monk asked. The traveler sighed, "I might need these things." The monk smiled gently, "But is it worth the pain?" The traveler hesitated. He opened his bag and examined the items inside. Half of them were unnecessary, things he had held onto out of habit, fear, or attachment. So, he did something radical. He let them go. As he removed the extra weight, something magical happened. His steps became lighter, his breath deeper, his mind clearer. He realized that he had been carrying burdens he didn't need, not just on his back, but in his heart. The lesson: the more you carry, the heavier life feels. Just like the traveler, we carry too much, not only in our physical lives but in our minds. We hold on to past regrets like souvenirs of pain. We carry fears about the future as if preparing for a disaster. We fill our schedules with unnecessary commitments, believing we must be constantly busy to be valuable. But what if we put some of it down? What if we let go of the fear of what others think, the guilt of past mistakes, the need to prove ourselves through material success? Happiness does not come from accumulating more. It comes from letting go of what weighs you down. Practical tip: the "what can I let go of" exercise. Tonight, before you sleep, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what unnecessary thoughts, fears, or distractions am I carrying? Write them down, then, one by one, mentally release them. If it's a thought about the past, remind yourself, I no longer need to carry this. If it's a fear of the future, tell yourself, I trust that I will handle whatever comes. If it's an obligation that drains you, ask, is this truly necessary? Lighten your load. The less you carry, the more free you become. 4. Your thoughts are not you. They are just passing clouds. Have you ever had a negative thought and immediately believed it was true? I'm not good enough. I always make mistakes. Things will never get better. We all experience these thoughts, and too often, we mistake them for reality. But what if I told you that your thoughts are not you? The Buddha said, with our thoughts, we make the world. This means that our reality is shaped not by what happens to us, but by how we perceive it. Yet, most of us don't realize that thoughts are just visitors. They come. They stay for a while, and then they go. They are not permanent, and they do not define us. The sky and the clouds. Imagine for a moment that your mind is the sky, vast, open, limitless. Now, imagine that your thoughts are clouds drifting across that sky. Some days, the sky is clear and peaceful. Other days, dark storm clouds appear, bringing anxiety, doubt, and fear. But no matter what kind of clouds appear, the sky itself never changes. No storm lasts forever. Eventually, even the darkest clouds pass. The same is true for your thoughts. They come and go, but they are not you. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. You are the observer, the awareness beneath the thoughts. The lesson: learning to observe, not attach. The problem is not that we have negative thoughts, it's that we believe them too easily. When anger arises, we say, I am angry, instead of, I am experiencing anger. When doubt creeps in, we think, I am a failure, instead of, this is just a passing thought. But thoughts are like passing clouds, they only stay if we hold on to them. Instead of getting caught in every thought, what if we simply observed them and let them go? Practical tip: the cloud watching exercise. The next time a negative thought arises, try this. 1. Pause and take a deep breath. 2. Imagine the thought as a cloud. 3. Visualize it drifting away. If you think, I'm not good enough, don't fight it. Instead, see it as a passing cloud in the sky of your mind. Watch it come, and then let it float away. You do not have to hold on to every thought that enters your mind. You do not have to let them define you. Like the sky above, you remain open, free, and untouched. And in that realization, you will find peace. 5. Mindfulness is the key. Anchor yourself in the present. Have you ever felt like your mind was running faster than you could keep up? You sit down to relax, but 100 thoughts flood in. You try to focus on a task, but your mind keeps jumping to unfinished work, past regrets, or future worries. You want to be at peace, but your thoughts feel like a storm you can't control. The more you try to force your mind to be quiet, the louder it becomes. The Buddha said, when the mind is calm, the breath is calm. The secret is not to fight the mind, but to anchor it in the present moment. And one of the simplest ways to do that is through mindfulness. The story of the tea ceremony. A restless student once visited his Zen master. Master, he said, I can't stop thinking, my mind is like a wild horse. No matter what I do, I can't quiet it. The master smiled and handed him a steaming cup of tea. Hold this. The student took the cup, feeling the warmth in his hands. Smell it. He inhaled deeply, noticing the rich aroma of the tea. Now, take a sip, taste it fully. The student did, and for the first time that day, his mind was silent. The master chuckled. See, when you focus completely on the present, your mind has no room to wander. The lesson: the mind cannot race if it is anchored in the now. The reason we feel mentally overwhelmed is because we are always thinking about something other than the present moment. When we eat, we scroll through our phones. When we walk, we plan for the future. When we rest, we replay the past. But the mind cannot be in two places at once. When we bring our full attention to what is happening right now, the storm of thoughts begins to settle on its own. Practical tip: the 5-breath reset. The next time your mind is racing, pause and try this simple technique. 1. Take a deep breath in through your nose. 2. Feel the air filling your lungs. 3. Hold for a moment, then exhale slowly. 4. Repeat 5 times, fully experiencing each breath. As you do this, notice the sensation of the air moving in and out, the way your chest and belly rise and fall. How, with each breath, your mind becomes quieter. Your breath is always with you. It is a constant anchor to bring you back to the present. The next time your thoughts start running wild, don't chase them. Return to your breath. Because when you are truly present, peace is already here. 6. Trust impermanence. Your pain will pass. Nothing in life lasts forever. Yet, when we experience suffering, it feels like it will never end. When we lose someone we love, the grief feels endless. When we fail, the disappointment feels permanent. When life becomes difficult, the struggle feels like it will never improve. But just as joy is fleeting, so is pain. Nothing remains unchanged, not the seasons, not our emotions, not even our struggles. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." This means that no matter how heavy your pain feels today, it will eventually pass, just as everything in nature does. Let me share a story with you. The falling leaves. A young disciple approached his master, sadness weighing on his face. "Master, I feel lost, I am filled with sorrow, and I don't know if I will ever feel happy again." The monk looked up at a tree shedding its autumn leaves. He picked up a golden leaf and asked, "If you were sad forever, would that be possible?" The disciple thought for a moment and shook his head. "No, Master, even in my deepest sadness, there have been moments of peace, moments of light." The Master smiled. "Then why fear sadness? Like these leaves, it will pass." The disciple looked around him. The tree that once was full of green had turned golden and was now letting go of its leaves. Soon, the branches would be bare, but after the winter, new leaves would grow again. The disciple finally understood, nothing stays the same, not even his suffering. The lesson: pain is not forever. Think about the worst day you've ever had. Did it last forever? No. Did the pain stay exactly the same? No. Everything changes, no matter how deeply we feel it in the moment. The heartbreak that once felt unbearable eventually softened. The sadness that once consumed you eventually faded. The storm that once raged eventually passed. And just like before, this too shall pass. When we understand impermanence, we no longer fear pain, because we know it is temporary. Practical tip: the "this too shall pass" reminder. Whenever you are struggling, repeat this to yourself. This too shall pass. If you are grieving, remind yourself, this pain is temporary. If you feel stuck in life, tell yourself, I am growing through this, and it will change. If anxiety grips you, breathe and say, like the wind, this feeling will pass. Nothing in life stays the same, not the good, not the bad. So when pain arrives, don't hold on to it, let it pass, like the autumn leaves drifting to the ground. Because no matter how dark the winter may seem, spring always follows. What will you let go of today? Overthinking is a thief. It steals your peace, robs you of the present, and weighs you down with worries that may never come true. But here's the truth: you don't have to carry it anymore. You have learned that the past is gone, and holding onto it only causes suffering. The future is uncertain, and no amount of worry will change that. Your thoughts do not define you, they are just passing clouds. Happiness isn't found in more, it's found in letting go. Pain is temporary, no matter how deep it feels right now. So I ask you, what burden are you ready to put down today? Will you let go of the regret that haunts you? Will you release the fear that keeps you stuck? Will you stop trying to control what is beyond your reach? Take a deep breath. Right here, right now, in this moment, give yourself permission to let it go. May you find peace in every breath, every moment, every step. If this video brought you clarity, share it with someone who needs it. Because peace is not just meant for you, it is meant to be shared.